technical things, but it seems to be working now. So that's positive. 3. Okay. I have a bottle and a stegosaurus. And that's my subject for tonight. So that's what I'm going to paint. So no point mucking about. Let's get on with it. I'm going to be quite loose and scrappy about this to begin with because, well, that's what's required. I may as well start with a bit of burnt sienna. I frame that. It fits very nicely as it is into this space. We'll sort of go around it. But I don't think it's the best view of the Stegosaurus. Most interesting thing about the Stegosaurus is its spiky tail. That's less interesting. So what I might do, yeah, put it like that. Have its nose stick across a little bit. No, that's stupid. I like the space in between them. That's going to turn it into more of a landscape picture. I want to see the outline of its head, and from where I'm sitting, I simply can't. I'm going to prod it with a brush until it's in the right place. That's better. Actually, that'll be okay. It's going to be a bit small like this, but that's all right. I'm going to nudge my yellow backdrop across. In fact, I can probably put it that way around. Already better. Yeah. So let's have that there. This here. The tail's going to escape, so now everything needs to move over. Try again. Yeah. I measure the Stegosaurus, compare it to the height of the bottle. Just going to put the bottom of the bottle about there. Maybe the top up here. Maybe the whole thing needs to move down now. Let's do that. I'll pour a little bit of black into this as well, so I can really establish this. So I'm going to put the head of the Stegosaurus there, bottom of the bottle here. That's the back of the label. Ooh, take a bit off the bottom of this. Good-ish, kind of. Is that it? do a few negative spaces. That's going to be around the top of that is. So that's there. The tail of the Stegosaurus is going to escape off the bottom. Do I need to shrink it some more? Do I need to move it across a bit more? I'll move it across a little bit more. I'll move it back to here, which is where it was to begin with anyway. Let's move it down a little bit more too. Get all of that out. And let's find some blue tack so I don't end up painting by pushing things across with a brush rather than pushing the paint around. This is the vague way in which I was always started painting, where everything can go wrong and it doesn't matter. There's nothing at stake. And then just when I've started, I'll stop and spend 20 minutes wandering around looking for some blue tack, which I buy every second time I go into any shop that sells it, including the supermarket. And yet I never have it. Who knows where it could have gone? It's going to be up here somewhere. Anyway, if you're tuning in, do say hello. I will periodically check the chat. The Vileidosaurus lives. Yes. Well, not in a strict sense, no. But he's continuing to be gloriously dead in the way he was before. Long extinct creature that somehow is back in our consciousness. It is rather glorious, isn't it? Think how many hundreds of millions of years was it just forgotten by every, or unknown, you know, every generation of creatures that came after. For literally hundreds of millions of years were oblivious to its existence. Now I have a model of one. Made out of plastic that decayed in made from the decayed remains of the trees that accompanied it to its grave. Yeah, so that's if you're aware of any blue tack left in existence in the universe, let me know if you can see some, because I don't think there is any. I think I've bought all of it and now it's all gone without me really using any of it. I think that's what's happened here. So yeah, interesting how that can happen. But yeah, that's the way of it. There should be some stuck to something, usually something fairly unwelcome. I'm going to just use tape. Unbelievable. Make myself some kind of blue tack hat and see how long it takes before my hat is just gone inexplicably. There we are. All right, that's back. Good. Yeah, if I get that shadow at the bottom, that's as low as its feet are going to get. And now I'm just going to get a piece of rag and I'm going to make some spaces. And if I need to, I can use a little bit of thinners just to clear a space. So that's where its feet are going to go. That's going to be the bottom of the bottle around there somewhere. That's a whole space there. If I go from over here, maybe it doesn't matter if the Stegosaurus goes off the end. I would also correct you, Josie. I know it's pedantic, but it's only a Vileidosaurus. Well, the Vileidosaurus was a washing up brush, really. The Stegosaurus was in the same picture, but was not the same object strictly. But yeah, who's checking? Well, I am obviously, but take that across. Seems to be something around there. Let's see how that plays out with the whole image of the bottle, as it were. Is that an appropriate negative space? Yeah, it is. This can take a bit more off the top even. That's pretty good. So a bit like that. Let's take a bit of this light out of here. What about, okay, over here? There's sort of a shadow here. Am I comfortable with this composition? Kind of. This is interesting. So we've got this shadow here. It just sort of slopes in, and there's this tall bit. Let's put a bit of that light out, and then a whole kind of V shape out of here. And now I think I've lost my composition again. No, it's going to be way off. Maybe not too bad. There's that there, there's that there. No, the tail's going to be gone. And also it needs to be all the way down here. No, I can't do it. Maybe I can't do anything tonight. It might be one of those nights. One of those nights where I just can't do it. Or the bottle has to be really small. So if that's the width, that's bottle and dinosaur. The height is ever so slightly taller. So from the bottom of the feet of the dinosaur up to the writing on the bottle. So if I take that width here, like this, and then go from the feet of the dinosaur up, that moves the label on the bottle much further down. I'm going to just go ahead and do that. Let's make a square, shall we? And I can guarantee it's square by only doing 3 sides of it. Then the top is imaginary. We can figure out where that is afterwards. Or I could just measure it like this. So that's about right there. Square. And if I carve that square up, let's find out what's halfway. Let's take the back foot of the Stegosaurus and let's measure that. That's less than halfway. What about the front foot of the Stegosaurus? And move that across. That's slightly more than halfway. So there's a little space in between. I'm going to pop in a few splodges of light just where I need them. And it is pretty much level with the bottom of the bottle. So if the feet are going there, that's a good place. And it's going to go in the middle. It's going to go back here. And there's another place. We've got the space here. And then there's the thing, and there's the edge of the bottle there. And there's a bit of light going across. And there's a bit of shadow going down. That's also giving me some of that light. It's going to go across to here. That should be where the tail goes. A bit steeper than that. Let's take the width of the bottle and compare it to the height. I'm going to do some proper measuring here because my eye isn't in. I've had a busy day doing other stuff and I'm not in art mode. 1, 2, 3.5. So if I've got this width here, I'm going to trust that to some degree. I can just measure it as 1. This is where I wish I hadn't used that tape. One. 2, 3.5. That's the top of the bottle there. Okay, let's go back to that a bit. Let's measure some of those marks off. 1, square number 1, square number 2, square number 3, somewhere around there, and a half. And come in a bit on one side as well. These are all fun things to do to try and make your drawing behave itself. Sometimes the drawing just falls in. Sometimes it's just really awkward and difficult. I'm going to take that measurement again and say how far up that square at the bottom of the label come in. Around here somewhere. It's going to be the bottom of my label. Go again and say how far up to the top of the label. There's 1. Right this far underneath the top. Nice. Yeah, okay. So at a certain point, I can start to pull some shapes out that I might be roughly comfortable with. Okay, this has all gone a bit wonky as well. That's not good. I'll put that back in roughly a straight line. That's the halfway point. And carry that one up. Okay, I'm not going to carry on and do lines or anything like that, but yeah, there's a thing here. Once I've got enough of these shapes, put other things in, like that shadow. It's going to be quite useful. There you are. So that's very odd and abstract, but nonetheless useful information I can rely on now. What else is there? So that's a bit peculiar. I'm going to mix some of this yellow because that's going to be important, and I'm going to use a bit of white, a bit of this old lemon yellow, which is quite weak. I'm going to put a bit of burnt sienna in there. I'm going to make it quite beige. It's also got a red content. Let's go with a bit more of that. Let's make it too red. And then I can put it back with this yellow. Really make a quantity of it. Is that yellow enough? It's quite intense. I think. Well, it'll do for the moment. I can always change it later on. That rather cheap and rather transparent yellow is going to make this whole mix a little smeary and transparent. I could put some mixing white in it, or even a bit of marble dust just to counteract that, and I may yet do it. Oh, hang on. Come back. Right, completely dry brush. Okay, let's see what this does. Let me put it on. Getting a little bit transparent. Put a bit on here. Sort of mixing on the surface a little bit. That's all right. Let's put some in there. What about this? What about, yeah, a bit of a V. I haven't measured where that goes, so still need to be able to change my mind on that. This is all going to be quite vague. Now that's in as a yellow shape. That's pretty close to what I'm seeing. That's going to be up here. A little V will be followed by a little V there. This will be lower down. And there's a tail. Maybe a little bit of a spike. We can exaggerate that. Now, complete with measurement. That paint's behaving itself pretty well. I guess I'll leave that as it is. Let's just do a little brush mix off to one side. Put a bit more red in it even. That's the message, which possibly means that the sound isn't coming out. I don't know. Find out. Not dark enough. Some of that off. Ah, what's pinging at me? On their way of knowing. Ah, oh, it's a message from Matt, who was trying to type into YouTube and he wasn't having it. So yes, that gets back to my original point. Yes, so the oil comes from lots of decomposed stuff, mostly trees, and the prevailing belief is that when trees first evolved, they evolved lignin, which was a very strong thing that allowed them to grow taller. It's this organic compound which has got a lot of cellulose in it, and nothing could digest cellulose. Most stuff still can't. And so these trees would grow, die, just end up, just nothing ate them. And so they just got buried under the next layer of trees, and the next layer of trees, and the next layer of trees. And then you end up with this giant seam of this hydrocarbons that nature has made and failed to dispose of. And over time, that becomes coal and oil. It's possible that there's arguments that oil was something different, like some kind of sea creatures or whatever. But the point is, it's all sort of mushed up together, isn't it? So, yeah, there's going to be a few dinosaurs in there. There's probably the old Stegosaurus that got hit by a falling tree. It turns out there were a lot of them around, and the Stegosaurus's brain was the size of a walnut, which is insert easy joke there. Yeah, so it's quite possible they failed to dodge them. Yeah. So yeah, so I love the idea of that complete cycle of the plastic dinosaur containing bits of actual dinosaur that have been kept in all this undigested cellulose for millions of years. It is possible, and I need a paleontologist to weigh in on this, that the Stegosaurus does actually predate the existence of the tree. But I'd have to check. If you're at home and you'd like to check, do waste your time Googling so I don't have to. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, there's so much of it speculation at this point. There you go. I've got a bit of a shadow, got a bit of an arrangement. What haven't I got? What I haven't got is a grey. For the foreground that's got a bit of yellow mixed into it. I'll borrow a bit of that brown as well for this, so it doesn't go too green. And let's see, this is just a brush mix. If it's good enough, I might make some more of it. But to begin with, no, it's not yellow enough. Thankfully, I have a lot more yellow. There you are. So that's grey by comparison, but that's also in the wrong place. Already had some of this. Already done a bit of that. That's a shadow. It goes a lot more pink over there. Well, that's interesting. Lots of things to discover. What's that doing? Oh, that's interesting. I'll make a pinker version of this brown colour as well. If that helps over here, which I think it does. Yeah, so I do like the idea of my dinosaur being made from dinosaurs. There's a different level there. And if that happens like that, actually, that's about right. Now, this is going to be pretty quick today. I'm going to go straight in and make a shadow color. Is that too dark? No. Well, yes, but yes, but no, but it is or it isn't. Make your mind up. You do need to have a better idea of what's going on. Yeah, that was I wish that was the right color. So I'll just say yes for a moment and see if that works. But it turns out it didn't work. Turns out that just saying it's the right color when it isn't doesn't make it the right color. Which is very disappointing. Because I'd have really liked that to have been the case. Okay, it's a little foot. That's a little shadow. Yeah, shadow of a head. A bit more of that into here. A bit more red in it. Let's see what it does. Yeah, it does need to move up a bit. I went to Dorchester Museum today. I had a look at there's a new exhibition on of some portraits and stuff, which is really nicely done. Very good. I recommend it. But as you walk towards the exhibition of painted portraits, there's bits of the sort of regular content, which includes a sort of a life-size head of some terrifying toothed creature that has been dug up at some place along the Jurassic coast, reproduced in paper mache and propped up in a museum to scare children. And then they find out it really only scares adults because kids just find that stuff fascinating. But yeah, it gave me a bit of a jolt on my way through. Maybe they should do that with all art galleries. Okay, now we're talking-ish, sort of. Yeah. Some lights in there as well. And in here, some of those yellows really need to come out. It's funny how much of a job that does already. And I haven't even put any sort of fine details in it or anything. Let's just get rid of the front of that. Yeah. I'm not going to do any more details than that. While I've got this creamy light colour on the brush, I'm going to keep referencing that same yellow. I might just try it out there. Let's see what that does. Yeah, that's pretty good. There'll be a shadow colour as well, but I don't need to worry about that yet. Little hint of it there. Little hint. Cool. So I haven't even got the palette knife out. I haven't been doing any proper mixing. Can go into a brighter yellow here. Establish that shape a bit better. It's going to come out, and it's not a big change. It'll help the other side as well. for a bit of symmetry being demanded by my eye there, but not enough stuff here to do it properly. So I'm going to make that more vague. There we are. That's a sort of a thing, sort of. What am I going to need now? I think I've got enough of a context I can actually mix some colour. Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to keep these brushes with the paint on them. While I've got some of that yellow, I can mix some of this green. Got a bit of green left over from yesterday's painting. That's pretty good. Quite happy with that. I'll do for sort of the highlight bits. From that, I can make quite a murky green. It should work for the shadow. It's going to be a sort of one in the middle. Is that going to be too strong? Tricky. No, I don't think so. Or a little bit of light, put it in there. There's a cooler green to go in because it's darker. You put some yellow in it just the same and it should survive, and it kind of does. I'll see if that works. It might need a bit of is it too brown now? No, I think that'll be all right. Okay, clear a space here. And let's make a proper black this time. I'm going to use burnt sienna and viridian, which will be a slightly softer black. And it will lean towards the green, and it's a sort of a muddy green. Don't need any more viridian in that. Proper dark. And just to add on to that, I might need to make some more of that. Tiny bit of light, a little bit of alizarin, see what that does. Might be too much. That might be a good colour for where I've got this red accent light. Okay, a few things there. If I put, what I haven't got, well, you know, that's perfect for the shadow colour. Just accidentally happened upon it. And so it's perfect for the shadow colour of the, what do you call them, the blades of the Stegosaurus. They're not blades, they're something like that. You can use a little bit of oil or thinners with that just to make it go a bit further. Clean up a few of these brushes. Let's start with the darks. Tiny little dab of oil. I should be able to do a few. Is that? Yeah. It's a collection of shapes here. across here. That foreleg is closer to the back one than that one. Let's pop those in. It's roughly level. Now, where's that going? Okay, now I've got a measurement. I can take the width of the bottle again. I can move that across, and that should line up with this here, which it pretty much does. So, okay, I'm on track. So I'm starting to trust my measurements, trust my mark part, trust my little map around the surface. Again, I've been careful with my observations, but I'm not making super careful marks. I'm not fussing about outlines. I'm just trying to understand where the general shapes go and how they relate to one another. Which kind of works. Now there's these shadows underneath the plates, bits on the back of the Stegosaurus. There's shadows here. There's a light bit that sort of bumps in. These come around. There's one there. There's a few, in fact. This one goes here. This one here. And then there's a whole sort of dark bit that goes across the top. Okay, I'm going to go down to the middling green now and see what that does. And I should still have some room for highlights afterwards. Yeah, this looks pretty good. It's quite bluish, but that's all right at this stage. Yeah, it goes mixing in on the surface. A bit in there. Bit at the front. A little bit that comes down. A little bit that goes across the top of the head. Yeah, it's weird, they've got sort of like a dog-shaped head. Imagine them being like little puppy-like pets. That might not have worked out for you if you went back. Here's where that reddish colour comes in. A little bit lighter. Oh, that's very interesting. Now that's sort of appearing now. Yeah, there's this pale peachy colour on top. And that makes a few particular points that turn up at particular places. So there's one here that makes an outline around that. There's another one, yeah, here. Just sits above that gap. Where else? Then they get a little pinker and greyer. Yeah, it is there. Another one that sits just above that. Another one here. And this will give us the position of the sort of the, what do you call them? These defensive plates that go around and go along the back of the dinosaur. Right, okay. Let's put in a few little shapes just where they're relevant. Have to be careful not to sort of jump ahead. Right. If that's done, I can put in some of these darks. Here. It looks a lot bluer now it's in, but I think it'll make sense when the context is all in. Okay. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah. I go a little bit redder for this. Maybe even a little bit more orange, put a bit more orange in there. Does this go too far? I think it does. I don't know, I shouldn't be afraid of a bit more colour. There you go. Maybe I need that yellow just to redefine some of these shapes as I go along. There is something behind there, and it is different. What about here? Boom. A little bit of that. Yeah, well, that's even deeper down there and in here. And then you've got the tail spikes and stuff, but we'll come into them later. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to mix a bit more of this shadow color just to make sense of that. Re-establish some of those edges. Not dark enough. That's better. And they kind of alternate. I don't want to do every last little detail of it. Yeah. It's got two of these little bits on its head that look a bit like horns, which is quite fun. Oh, this was my shadow colour. No, not anymore, it isn't. I mucked that up. But yeah, this here, that needs to create an edge in that. There we go. Okay, yeah, I can see some outlines now. I think this might have been... It's a bit behind here. Okay, not much more to do now to get a few highlight colours on here. And the bottle. The bottle's going to be like a separate bit. I know I don't always separate these things out, but I think here I have to. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, I got caught up in some of the lights and darks. That's okay. Drag a bit of that out a bit. Now, what other things are there that we're going to need looking at? I'm going to have a lighter pinker colour, which again, it's not super strong, but there's a bit of that there. There's a bit of it here. A hint of it there. When I put the bright edges on these, on the blades, that will make a difference. What about over here? A little bit showing through the gap, a little bit at the end. A spike at the end. Now, if I go back in with the yellow now, I'll go a little bit lighter, a little bit pinker, just a tiny bit, just at the end here. I can really establish some of these negative shapes. Now, that's enough of that. Yeah, chuck a bit more of that pinky light over there. Okay. Anything else to fiddle with at this point? Not particularly. A bit of pinkishness under there. A little bit under there. A little bit around the edge. That'll do. Okay. Oh yeah. And put a bit of that into these sides of the blades. Give them a bit of structure. Magic. Anywhere else that goes. It goes in the label over here. This chap in a hat. Anything else? No. Right, give that a clean up. Well, thanks for taking to Matt for taking the effort to actually send a text message to me. Because YouTube isn't playing. Hello, Michelle. DD Express. Who's that? Well, thanks for coming and saying hello anyway. What was I? Oh yeah. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually just finish this dinosaur. I'm going to keep it really simple. I've got this light green colour. Still got this slightly greeny brush. I'm going to give it a good thorough drying. And I'm just going to get some of this light green colour. I'm just going to lay it on where it goes. Which is here. And pointing down. There'll be a bit of breaking up some edges later, but that will come, you know, when the time comes. And I'm just looking at the shapes at this point. And partly this will capture a little bit of the shininess of the plastic, a little bit of the colour, a little bit of the texture that's in the model itself. So yeah, there's definitely more sort of warmer yellows to go in there. I get some of the highlights and bits and pieces done with this. If I break that up and get some directionality to it as well. Let's show a little bit of, there, I can mix on the surface a little bit, break a few of those edges. Yeah, something about this shape here that's got away from me. But you know what? That's pretty close already. You get one last bit of extra, or a bit of that yellow as well. Well, there he is, little fella. A few little smatterings of green on here as well. Anything else? No. I'm going to go across to that light pink colour now and just do a few last little touch-ups. Just where they go, in there. And there, create some of that separation. It's more about the edges than it is about a colour change. Oh, that's there. Let's get a bit of cadmium and a bit of white. Just put a little bit of an edge on there. Bit on there. If I can prioritise them, put them in the right order. There we go. Oh, nothing over here. No. That'll do for that. I'll tell you what else I haven't got. The reflection. That isn't going to show up very strongly. There'll be a bit of green in there. Anyway, I'm outside of my remit there. So let's get some of this shadow colour and let's put some of these darker pinks in, and that works. As does this. About over here, same really. Get a bit of extra colour up at the top. Naughty. Let's do some of these browns actually before I move on. Oh, right, that bit of the palette isn't playing at all. That needs cleaning off. Okay. Let's start with some of this. If I can get that rosy orange colour, where the yellow shows through the brown of the bottle. I think I'll just start with this one. It's the same brush. Okay, it's not going to be yellow enough. So I'm going to use actual orange in there. Cheeky, but it works. Right over here. So yeah, so I've just discovered something about these colours. They're actually quite intense. Now I'm not going very thick with the paint here. There's a slightly browner version. A bit darker. One that's up here. Here's where there's a danger of me going lopsided again. That's the middle that's going up. That's the middle of that, which means this needs to come over a little bit. There we are. Okay. I'm not going to fiddle with this too much. I need to go to the darks. They get bluish in places. They're quite interesting. Put some of these lights. I'll put some of this pink in it. Let's see what that does. That works nicely. Makes a nice reflection sort of colour. Where else has got that? It's a bit under there. Oh, and there's this sort of shape around the edge of the bottle. Where else is it? Not a hint of it there. Okay, now back to my orange a second. Let's put a bit more of that in there. Let's go back to my dark brown. And let's darken that. Let's darken this bit. Let's put a little bit of a, actually, yeah, it needs to be a version of this that's slightly bluer. Let me go over to one side. That's going to go on here. Create me a nice outline around that. Yeah, that's nice. So I'm finding some interesting colour relationships as I go. Get around the top. Doesn't matter if I make it wonky or get it wrong, because I can go back with my yellow. What else requires? Okay, so I can go all the way to the very darks now. It's going to be all the way over here. Pop a tiniest bit of blue in it. It won't make much of a difference. And then we can say, and the bit there, the whole bit under here. About that. About this. Yeah, finding other bits and pieces. There's going to be more label on this. So where I was a bit worried that I'd sort of mucked up with the shapes on the label, actually I think I got them roughly in the right place, but the label wasn't quite big enough. Extra bit under there, that's probably more than I need now. That'll do. Right, stop fiddling. And then back to my orange. I've got some of this yellow I'm just going to use to lighten things. Let's chuck a load of orange in that. Need a tiny little extra bit of red. And these should help turn up some edges. No, it doesn't need to go more orange, it needs to go. There's actually a bit more yellow in there. I'll pop a little bit of that in there. We'll go to the yellow and make it like a yellower one. Let's see what this does. A bit more like it. Get the sense of the light coming through now. Oh, I'm seeing other darks now that I missed before. Actually, no, this is okay. Right. Go back to those darks there. Ooh. If I fiddle anymore, I'm going to sort of lose. Yeah, I just need a brownie one just to make this sort of indented line that goes down, and that'll do for that bit in there. Stop it. What else am I going to need here? I'm going to need some more of that label colour. That's going to need to go up. You know what? Make a little space Get your colour shaper out. Lovely. That should have been pinker. Make it pinker now. Still can be. There we go. Trouble controlling the direction of that particular mark. Right. Let's do some of this. What would you call it? Goldish writing, I guess. Actually much yellower than that. This is not the most ideal yellow to have. We're rather spoilt to be able to have things like cadmium yellow. Once this gets to here, actually works for both. Normally I'd have to lighten it a bit when it emerges, like that. Make it look consistent. I will with the red. Let's start with the bright red. It's not too crazy, but it is quite bright. A little bit subdued. No, even lighter than that. Turns out. And then it gets darker. There's also up at the top. I'm going to make a darker one over here. There you are. Same thing up here. Guess that'll have to do. Oh yeah, we've got this orange again. This little orange pipe. This little orange face. And hand. A hand across there, and that'll do for that. I'll darken the writing on this. This is slightly, I think. Anyway, there you go. I think we all know what kind of beer that is if you're a beer drinker. If you're not, you might not, but then it doesn't matter, does it? Yeah. Okay. We'll go back to this yellow. I might make a slightly more orange one. And a little bit lighter as well. Break that edge ever so slightly. Define that one without committing to it too much. Break up the marks generally. we should get something that gives us a sense of where it begins and ends. And the last bit will be a couple of little highlights, I think. So first thing, while that red's on the brush, let's do some of the pinky highlights for the accent colour. Should we go in there, in here, a little bit down there. That'll do for that. Yes, that doesn't need any more. And then a couple of bright highlights. For the bottle, which is going to be this with a tiny bit of the yellow in it. It's going to have a nice bright highlight there. And there. Oh, here's the one there. If I do this right, that should be there we go. There we are. Is that okay? How's that shadow looking? I think I need a bit more of this yellow to creep into the sides. There too. I trust the shadow to kind of survive even when I start to invade it from the outside. A little bit of orange there. That's too bright, isn't it? There we are. Yeah. That's nice. A couple of little yellows at the end. Well, oh, got some comments. Let's come and say hello before I finish it up. Oh, hi Emma. What am I calling this one? Well, the last one was with a washing up brush, and I called it Biledosaurus. Hence Josie's comment earlier. She's not going mad. This one, I think, is probably I don't know. I mean, there's no obvious link, is there? Which is exactly what I enjoy about this kind of thing. Am I fiddling? What on earth am I fiddling? I know one last thing I need to do. Let's get some of this colour here. Make that tail the right shape. And that's got to be a place to stop, isn't it? What am I going to call it? Very good question. Well, any suggestions? Suggestions are more than welcome. I would say something like Designated Stegosaurus? No. Designated dinosaur, maybe. Although it's the one that's been drinking. Or has he been drinking? Or, wow. You know what? Nothing's firing at the moment. I think I need to sleep. But suggestions are welcome. I don't know. What would you encourage a Stegosaurus to do responsibly? I'm thinking it is a bit like an advert, isn't it? But there you go. That's too much. Just take the edge off that. Oh, there you go. Oh. Yeah. He used to get them in cereal packets. I don't see why they can't start putting them in packs of beer. Okay, I'm going to go to the overview. That's sort of a bit of an idea of what I'm seeing. I moved my light up because I was getting too many reflections. So I don't know if that'd be better. A bit brighter, maybe. Who knows? Ah, mate is outside leaving his stereo on. We turned it off. Well done. I've been so belligerent that I think he's finally sick of having to deal with me. Oh, you can tell I'm opening the window. Anyway, there we are. So let's have a little close up. So this is my view here. If I get close up, hopefully we can see different things going on. So yeah, what the interesting one with this is like a little 8x10 board panel, and it's almost too small for these objects. So to get them to fit in that way, the composition was a really tricky one this time. But once that's in a little frame, I think it will. I think I'll be quite happy once it's in a little frame. So thank you so much for joining me again. It's always nice to have people piping up, offering their thoughts. Yeah, I'm wondering if it is the Stegosaurus that's been drinking. Maybe the Stegosaurus has been drinking, not me. There you are. There's a reference to a famous song by Tom Waits. Yeah, okay, I think I'll go with that. The dinosaur's been drinking, not me. Maybe it's funnier if you're specific about the Stegosaurus. Either way, I'll have a think about that. That's a long thing to write on the back of the Sharpie, though, isn't it? Yeah, those of you who might still be looking at this on Facebook, Emma, I recommend looking at it on YouTube instead. It's just better. Thank you to everyone else for joining me on YouTube. I appreciate it. And yeah, do write a comment or subscribe or anything like that if that's the sort of thing that's interesting to you. But it's not something I worry about particularly. So I just appreciate you joining me and spotting me while I'm here. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.